Hey, Force-E divers, it's Nicole, your social media gal, and I am going Facebook Live today for you guys because I have a great presentation lined up. A couple of things. April is Rec Month here at Force-E, so we have lots of great things on our website that you should be checking out. Let me go ahead and find that screen. So if you look at our website and you go to the event tab and you scroll to where it says events, and then you scroll down and you're going to see that we have lots of rec ready gear on sale. We also have 20% off online academics, and we have our presentations and dive travel still up on our website. So guys, you're going to want to go ahead and go to www.force-e.com and check out the events tab to check out and see what we're up to for the month of April for Rec Month. And so because of that, I have a very special guest today, and she's going to be talking about some wrecks that aren't here in the Florida coastline. They're going to be up in the North Carolina coast. And so I've got Kamala from Single Divers here. Thank you, Kamala, for joining us. And I see that we've got some people go ahead and they're already saying hello to us. We've got David from our Riviera store saying hello. Hi, David.
Hi, David.
And hopefully we'll get some more of you guys to make comments. So during this presentation or this Facebook Live, you guys can interact with us. You can type something, let us know if you have a question, or if you want to just give us a thumbs up or a love or I don't know what kind of cute little emojis you want to give us, but we definitely accept those. So let us know that we're here. Oh, Enrique, EJ's on.
Hey,
Hey, so we're really excited to be able to continue to bring the fun of scuba diving with Force-E. We love being social with you guys, but right now we're not allowed to be. So that's why we decided to do this Facebook Live for you and to give you a great presentation. So, oh, there's Hannah. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
All right, so guys, right before Kamala starts, I just wanted to let you know that throughout the presentation, you can actually go on our website, click on the link for today's presentation on the events page, and register. The reason why you want to register is because we've got something fun to give you at the end of this. So you have until 7:30 to register online, and you'll get a fun little surprise at the end of this. So make sure you get there, or if you missed it, that's okay. Just go to travel, TRAVEL at force-e.com, and we'll get you signed up through that. So all right, we got some more people waving. I've got Meg from our Riviera store, Jim Pember. What's up, Jim?
Hey, hi.
Got lots of people here. So guys, let's go ahead and get started. I have a feeling you did not sign up to hear me talk. But yes, everybody, if you didn't sign in until just now, we have a presentation about the wrecks of the North Carolina coast, the graveyard of the Atlantic. And this is Miss Kamala from singledivers.com.
Hi, everybody. Many of you do know that I have a small diving company, singledivers.com, and we love to feature off the beaten path, more unusual types of diving venues. And one of our flagship, absolutely amazing destination is the graveyard of the Atlantic. That's actually where I got certified and cut my teeth diving. So you could basically say I grew up there. I've done hundreds of dives on these wrecks. And Nicole asked me to speak about them, and I said I would absolutely love to. So I'm going to do it a little differently. There's a lot of information you can find online. That is all the historical details about the wrecks, when they sunk, how long was the ship, what was it carrying. And while I may touch on a few of those details, what I would like to do is talk to you about what it's like diving on those wrecks. We're going to cover today in our presentation what types of skills are necessary to dive, what type of gear would you need if you wanted to dive North Carolina, what's the best time to go diving. It is not a venue that is 365 like Florida is, so your timing is very critical. We're also going to cover who's qualified to dive there. Not everybody, it's not a fall off venue. You really do need a few extra skills, and we're going to talk about minimum skills required, and then what you would ideally want to have to really enjoy this destination. So I've asked Nicole to ask me questions throughout. So if you see her participating, it's because she's got an exciting question she wants you guys to know the answers to, and that's going to help me keep on track as well. North Carolina is rated one of the top wreck diving destinations in the world. So number one is Truck Lagoon. Beyond that, I believe North Carolina wreck and shark diving is number 3 on the list in the world. It is always been rated one of the top big animal encounters that you can find anywhere. Obviously, we know about our own Florida and how amazing those big animal encounters are. North Carolina is right up there with that. You're going to see all kinds of big sharks, a special species called Atlantic sand tiger sharks. You'll see massive southern stingrays. You will not see little barracudas. You will see 6-foot plus long barracudas. You won't see 1 or 2. You'll see 100 of them. It is not uncommon to see an entire school congregate underneath your dive boat, hiding under the shadow because they think that that shadow keeps them protected, and there'll be 50, 60, 70 more of them. So with that, Nicole, what questions would you like to get me started with?
Great. So why is it so special and so unique to dive the wrecks in the North Carolina region?
Part of what makes these wrecks really special is they're not artificial reefs. Artificial reefs, we know, are a wreck or structure that's been placed at the bottom of the ocean to create an opportunity for marine life to congregate and to have the entire ecosystem play out from small to large. And while there are a couple artificial reefs that are in North Carolina, most of the wrecks are victims of war. So whether it's World War I, or actually through Korea, really, most of the wrecks are, at least in the Morehead City area, those are going to be World War II victims. Most people don't realize how close those German U-boats were to our shores. And they made a lot of kills during that time frame. They called it the Great American Turkey Shoot, because yes, folks, our boats were that easy to pick off. They were like big fat turkeys, and they were taking them down one every several days. There are hundreds and hundreds of wrecks off the coast of North Carolina. Many have yet to be found. A little later in the presentation, we'll talk about a wreck that's actually a mistaken identity, which is kind of fun. And we'll talk about our reverse victory on one of the classic flagship wrecks that you can dive in Morehead City, where we took out the bad guys. So we're going to show you a little video footage of that. But the other reason that diving in North Carolina is so unique and so special is that, first off, it's not for everybody. This is not fall off the boat easy diving like a lot of Florida diving is. On any given day, you can have absolutely pristine, perfect bathtub water conditions. And then on any given day, even within a day, even within a couple hours, the conditions can change and challenge your skills. You can have some current. That current may only be at the surface. It may be mid-level current, or it may actually just be current that's on the wreck. There are really simple things that you can do, and the way that we structure the diving in North Carolina is actually designed to offset any issues that you would encounter should that current arise or you encounter that current. We'll talk about that under the skills. One of the other things that makes North Carolina so unique is that even if you don't like wrecks, they have been down for so long now that they have become gorgeous reefs. And these reefs are now the homes of everything from really beautiful macro things to massive pelagics that enjoy. And these or basically call these wrecks their home, including something that is not found on a lot of ships, or I mean, a lot of dive destinations, but these massive, massive bait balls. Nicole.
All right, awesome. So let's go to the next question. We already actually answered this one. What makes the wrecks different from other wrecks that you dive in Florida? So you kind of already answered that one, but did you want to touch on anything else?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is, besides the fact that they are, victims of war, they're also graveyards. So we do want to pay respect to these wrecks. Of course, Mother Nature can do more damage in one single hurricane season than man can do 40 years of diving on a wreck. But it does remind us of the futility of war. It reminds us of the atrocities of war. It reminds us of why we don't want to be in war when we're diving on these wrecks. And they do represent our history. One of the reasons we love to do a 4th of July trip is that we're diving on history, making our own little history. So it's always a special time to join the diving there during that time frame. But North Carolina offers a little something for everybody. So that's probably why we like to say that it's more than just wreck diving.
Awesome. Okay. Why don't you tell us a bit about some of the most famous wrecks in this area?
So North Carolina, Morehead City area in particular, a little bit off of Beaufort, but it has a series of wrecks. And the part of the reason that these wrecks are here, in addition to war, is there was lots of shoals. And so as these ships would come in, especially when they were carrying wartime cargo, as they came in, they hit these shallow shoals, and they would sometimes they end up hitting each other. Sometimes they hit the shoals. And that was why a lot of times they sunk before, even though they may have been a victim, we might have been able to salvage them. But the water was so treacherous, the area was treacherous, and so we weren't really able to. Another thing that makes these wrecks unusual, and some of the signature ones are going to be the U-352 German U-boat. It is one of the few German U-boats that we sunk during World War II and kind of turned the tide, so to speak, of the war. It was, I believe, one of our first kills. I think you have a little video clip, don't you, Nicole, for the U-boat? Well, so the U-boat is in, I think she's going to pull it up now. So the U-boat is in about 110 feet of water. She's still mostly intact. There's still a good portion of the pressure hold that's left, but every year she fades more and more. So it's definitely something you want to see as soon as you can, because it won't be there forever, that's for sure. Have a video. So many, many animals call these wrecks their home. And there is nothing more spectacular than to hit the water, have top to bottom viz, look down and go, oh my God, it's a submarine. And while that is not always what you'll see when you dive on the U-352, many, many times you'll hit the top of the water, you'll look down, and you'll see there's a submarine laying in the bottom, because we'll have top to bottom viz. Water temps in Morehead City are can be quite balmy. We can have on the cool side the low 70s during height of season, but also into mid 80s, and that's top to bottom water. So it can be spectacular diving. One of the other wrecks that I personally is one of my favorites, it's another signature wreck, is the USS Schurz. So the Schurz was sunk in 1918, and she is considered a World War I wreck. Now, she was a German destroyer, not a destroyer, but she was a German ship. And it's interesting because one of the things you'll see when you dive on this wreck is you'll see a lot of luxurious things, or we have over time, because this was a ship that was a luxury ship that was then retrofit for war. So people have found golden fountain pens on this wreck. Obviously, she had ammo on her. She was loaded for war, but she had so many elements, beautiful china on this wreck. She was a luxury war vessel. She had teak wood floors. You'll see the brass, what do you call them? I guess they'd be like a nail, but they held down these gorgeous teak wood floors. This was a deluxe vessel that was sailing the high seas during this time frame, because again, she had been confiscated in order to turn her into a weapon of war. Many of these wrecks, including the Schurz, are what we call a scuttled wreck. So a lot of their infrastructure is missing. Some of it's because of time, but some of it is because they were feared to be shallow enough that they needed to be, the tops and stuff needed to be broken down on them. So they actually cable layered them, where they ran chains over them to break the structure down, making them go from a fully intact wreck to a scattered wreck. And this was to keep them from being a impediment to shipping and causing additional wrecks. What else do we have? The sharks. So North Carolina is almost as famous, if not maybe more famous, for its Atlantic sand tiger sharks. And they inhabit a number of signature wrecks that people always want on their must-see lists, like the Carib Sea, the Papoose, the Atlas, the Hutton, and the Aeolus. And just so you know, the Aeolus is one of the first original wrecks that was an artificial reef that was placed there in, I think, sometime in the 70s. But she's been twisted and turned by a number of hurricanes. And so now she is a very unique wreck herself. Even though she is technically considered an artificial reef, she's one of the very first that was ever placed. So she has a tremendous amount of growth on her. And being a cable layer ship herself, she had these massive wide openings. And the picture actually you see of the shark there, that was taken on the Aeolus. So it is an amazing wreck to dive on, and it's certainly a classic favor. And there's lots of hiding spots for the sand tigers. And the good news is they're so used to divers, they don't even swim off anymore. So wonderful, wonderful photo opportunity. So EJ, if you're still out there, this is one you want on your bucket list. The spar is also a artificial reef, and she has become also a perennial favor because she's very close to the U-boat and she's very close to the Schurz. So it makes for a real easy day of diving to hit the Schurz and the sub, or the Schurz spar, or the spar sub. So that combination, enabling you not to have really long boat rides between the wrecks. So we basically intervened a little bit to make them a little bit closer. Now the Papoose is an interesting wreck. Remember I told you that the Papoose, there was a mistaken identity. So the Papoose and the Hutton is inshore, and the Papoose is what's called offshore. So about 3 hours out versus about an hour and a half out for wreck. That would be boat driving time at about 30 knots. And so initially what we thought was the Hutton closer in and thought was the Papoose further out, now they believe are reversed. So artifacts that have been brought up, China that's been brought up, these are all clues that have now convinced us that historically we mixed them up. So we still, because of the longstanding nature of these names, maps, and stuff being created with them, if you say you want to dive the Papoose, we're still going to take you to what's probably really the Hutton, which is further out. And if you say you want to dive the Hutton, then we're going to take you to what would now be known as the Papoose. So I guess you can say that once named, always named, but there is some interesting history in that it looks like we mixed up those wrecks. We have some wrecks that we call east side wrecks. So as you head out, you're going to basically do a due south heading, and then you're going to have to clear those shoals we talked about. So you can either go to the east or you can continue to go south. If you go absolutely south, that's where you're going to hit the submarine and the Schurz. If you veer off to the east, that's where you're going to find the Atlas and the Carib Sea. And I remember being there when we first started diving those wrecks, and people said, "Oh, what do you want to dive those wrecks for? Nobody ever goes to those." That's where we found a lot of sharks, a lot of sharks. And then word kind of got out, and pretty soon the secret was known by everybody that those were some of the best shark wrecks around. So it was good because if the conditions are a little bouncy going south, we can go east. And if conditions are a little bouncy going east, we can go south. So it gives us a lot more flexibility. Nicole?
Yeah, I was actually wondering, you're talking about the sharks, but what about the lionfish in that area? What are you seeing on the wrecks? How big are they? Are they on those wrecks? And are people going out and taking them out?
Absolutely. So I'm so glad you mentioned the lionfish. So when lionfish were first discovered years and years ago, they said, no way. They couldn't have possibly gone that far up north. And in reality, they had. There was a time, now there's a little more hunting. There was a time where the lionfish were easily basketball size. And on some of the lesser dove wrecks, they are still basketball size. One of the what we call far offshore wrecks called the NACO. And this is one where if everybody on the boat has above average skills, we can do this longer run. There's a small fuel surcharge, but this is a wreck that very rarely gets dove, and it is loaded. It's loaded. I mean, you barely move around and you sit and you just kill, shove into your tube, kill, shove into your tube. And of course, these lionfish are stupid. They don't swim off, and they're massive. You might actually need 2 tubes. That's how many there are. Lionfish hunting is allowed without a license on any wreck unless it is known for the sharks. So we would not hunt on a wreck that has a lot of sharks for obvious reasons.
All right, so guys, if you're looking at the stream of comments, I actually shared a link from that Sport Diver magazine article that tells you about the top 10 wreck dives in North Carolina. So if you wanted a little bit more information, maybe some more pictures, I did share that link in there for you guys. So take a look. But yeah, let's go ahead and go to the next question. Oh, we didn't play this video yet. This is living on the Papoose in the spar.
You will find massive schools of bait fish. You can commercially hunt if you wish to, although most of the time we take pictures rather than spearfish. But like Florida, we have a lot of spear fishermen that love North Carolina. Now, the Papoose has a lot of structure. Part of the wreck is turtled, meaning that she's upside down. So when you're on it, you're kind of like, not much to see here. But if you get down around to the edges, you can actually get into some places. We do not encourage you to go very far in, especially if you are not certified as a wreck diver. And I'm not talking about the wreck specialty that you get when you get your advanced open water. This would be for more advanced wreck diving specialties. But you can get in and kind of get a little sense of the wreck itself inside. And there are some places that you can do that are still safe, where there's light on the other side, so you can still do a swim through. But this is the Papoose is definitely a must-see wreck when you head to North Carolina. Nicole, you want to talk about the certifications required for the for diving North Carolina right now?
Yeah, so as you can see on the slide there, everybody, they do recommend having advanced open water or higher, and they also recommend the enriched air nitrox. So basically, Force-E, we can offer these courses for you actually right now because of everything that's going on in the world. Everything's going online. Hello, you and I are doing a presentation online, right? So Force-E is actually offering there's percentages off of the courses right now, up to 20% off the advanced open water academic materials, which is online materials, and also with the nitrox, the online materials are off 20%. So you guys, you can do this now. You do the online with whichever agency you pick. We can do PADI, we can do SSI or SDI. And then you'll do either a Zoom call or a FaceTime or any kind of call with your instructor. We can get you hooked up so that way you guys can do the classroom sessions. And then when we're cleared to go back diving, we'll get back in the water. So that way there's no lag time in getting that certification completed for you. So if you're interested in taking in these classes, you can go to our website.
I wanted to add a couple more things about what types of skills are needed, if that's okay, Nicole, with diving North Carolina and Morehead City. First off, while the boat does not require that you be nitrox certified, it is strongly suggested. So we're going to make anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hour out boat ride one way. We will have a minimum of 2 hour surface interval between our dives. We will do 2 deep dives. Those dives are going to be, if we're on the east side, they'll be as shallow as 75 to 80 feet. But most of them will be over 100 feet. Okay, so there'll be some relief. Some of the wrecks offer enough relief that you can stay a little shallower. But if you go to the sand, you're going to be 120 feet, 115 to 120 feet on a number of these wrecks, possibly even a little bit deeper. So those are the depths that are effectively the sweet spots for nitrox. You will literally double your bottom time if you're diving nitrox. So if you've never understood what the big deal about nitrox was, or you're certified but you don't really dive it, these wrecks, you're going to want to dive them because you're in that. These are pretty much a square profile, and you are in that sweet spot where nitrox will bottom or double your bottom time. Now, one other thing that needs to be noted, the classic mix, or the mix on tap, so to speak, is not your traditional 32% that you'll find in Florida. It's actually 30%. And the reason for that is that if we pull up on a wreck and the conditions are not good, we'll send a dive master into the water to actually hook an anchor line directly into the wreck. And if the conditions are not acceptable, then he will signal back up to the boat, either on a comms unit or by not hooking the anchor in. And so if the boat realizes that the anchor is not hooked, then it's its signal to say, we're not diving this wreck. And one of the reasons that we might not dive a wreck is because either there's no visibility or the conditions are ripping, maybe the current's unacceptable. So it's really important that with all the extra effort to go and do the diving, that you maximize your experience with the nitrox. And we're using that 30% mix so that if we show up, like I said, on a wreck and we don't have good conditions, that we can go to another wreck and not have to worry about, oh, we're exceeding the MOD now for everybody on the boat. So that 30% on tap mix, so to speak, what we call the North Carolina mix, is going to give us the greatest degree of flexibility so that everyone can stay within a 1.4 or 1.5 at a maximum operating basis and still have a large degree of safety margin. The other class that and certification level that you really strongly should take, some exceptions can be made for people that have been diving all their lives and have never gotten in advanced open water, or for somebody that was certified years ago and the open water was effectively advanced open water. So some exceptions can certainly be made for individuals like that, but you really do want your advanced open water. And the reason is that it's going to give you some familiarity with additional skills, whether it be deep diving, hopefully and possibly using a reel, hopefully and possibly knowing how to deploy an SMB or safety sausage. And so those skills are extremely valuable in doing North Carolina wreck and shark diving. While we're on the subject, we might as well go ahead and let you know the rest of the skill levels that we ask for. We do ask for a minimum of 40 logged dives. We do ask that you've had at least 5 dives that are in the 90 plus range. Obviously, you need to have about 5 dives at minimum that are saltwater dives, ocean dives, and preferably you have, again, enough comfort in the water so that if current comes up, you either can use the wreck to hide behind it to shield you from the current, or you can use the wreck to pull yourself along to offset the current. And if you've dove in current before and understand how that works, then you're going to have a wonderful time. It doesn't matter if a little bit of current comes up. It's not going to catch you by surprise. If you have enough skills under your belt, or if enough dives under your belt, and diving is more, secondary to you, then when something new happens in the environment, you're much more prepared to deal with it. Nicole?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We've had a couple of questions come in and my speaker was off, so I couldn't ask you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So I have a question about scooters. Can people use dive scooters on the wrecks?
Absolutely. So you can use a scooter to traverse the wreck, make a little further distance, or obviously offset current. That's a wonderful device to offset current. The only thing that we ask that you do not use a scooter for is to blow sand out, as if you were trying to retrieve a piece of the wreck or an artifact. That used to be legal, but sadly, in the last year or two, they have stopped that procedure. So, if you find a little piece of floor tile laying there or a piece of a porcelain cup or plate, you technically can't pick it up anymore. And so you couldn't use a scooter as a drilling tool, but you could certainly use a scooter as a transportation tool.
Awesome. So just want to tell you guys that if you go to the website, if you are on our page, you can find out more about the classes that Kamala is talking about. We also do technical diving at Force-E. We've got some great instructors that teach for us, whether it's side mount, doubles, rebreathers. So these are the types of courses that are good to have under your belt as well if you want to do a little bit more advanced diving on these wrecks, correct?
So I would like to add one thing. Technically, if you dive in Moorhead, and in most places really, if you want to do full tech profiles, then you need to be on what they call a tech charter. Mm-hmm. However, when we have an entire boat charter and they're familiar with the group that's coming, then you can do what I call tech light profile. So you can dive side mount if you prefer side mount. You can dive doubles if you prefer doubles. 1 for the redundancy, 2 just for, some people just prefer the way that they're going to be much more buoyant and trim in the water when they're diving doubles or when they dive side mount. So you can dive a more technical profile. You are asked to stay within recreational limits. However, it is not uncommon to enter into what we call casual deco. So that would be a couple minutes of deco, because that deco is going to clear as you start to progress up from those depths. And again, this is another reason why this is not a destination for newbies, because we wouldn't want somebody to either not recognize that their computer went into deco, or recognize that it went into deco and then panic because they went into a couple minutes of casual deco. So it's certainly, if you have advanced technical training, you're going to want to come and check out this venue. And then if we have enough technical divers, we can actually do a full technical charter, but we can maximize some cool things for tech divers. If you are a tech diver, you'll just not be able to bring excessive amounts of gear. You will need to stay within what we call the classic 2-tank parameter. So if you're on a dive boat, 2 cylinders, the space underneath you and the space of your 2 cylinders, that's your space. There'll be a little space inside the cabin for dry gear, but you're going to want to bring all of your gear to that amount of real estate. And if you can do that, you can dive anything you want, basically.
Awesome.
Nicole?
Yeah, I've got a question coming in from Gary. He wants to know, if you took the ride out there for an hour and a half and the conditions are a no-go, is there a backup dive plan, or the dive's just canceled and they ride back to the dock?
Excellent question. So another reason why you want to go with a group that has dove moorhead a lot, because if we put together a solid group of divers, all right, we actually try to encourage people to consider moorhead, but don't dive it until you really, really, really have some skills under your belt, because when the conditions start to change, the boat captain effectively is going to look at the composition of the divers. And if we're on the marginal edge of being able to dive, we will have to abort, or we will go to a lesser destination. So what do I mean by that? So the Graveyard of the Atlantic, in particular, Morehead City, Beaufort area, has what we call inshore wrecks. Those are shallower, less visibility, and cooler water. Then we have offshore wrecks. Those are the primo wrecks where the Gulf Stream comes into. That's where you get the blue water. That's where you get the signature wrecks everybody wants to dive. They all want to dive the Sub. They want to dive the Papoose. They want to dive the Carib Sea. They want to dive the Atlas. All the wrecks that you heard us mention, all the ones that made it into basically the top 10 with Scuba Diving Magazine, those are the ones that are considered offshore wrecks. And then there's one more category of wrecks. It's called far offshore wrecks. That's where the NACO is, and the Proteus. So those are wrecks that, if the conditions are fantastic, both sea conditions and weather conditions, we can pay a small fuel surcharge and make that little bit longer run and go out and dive those wrecks that basically nobody gets to dive on. So the classic day of diving is considered offshore wrecks. If the conditions deteriorate and it is not safe to dive, either it exceeds the skills of the divers on the boat, or it's just not safe to dive at all, then our first fallback plan is inshore wrecks, all right? While they're not desirable, they're more desirable than the dock, all right? And if we cannot dive an inshore wreck, then our fallback plan is that we will head in and you will receive a credit. Now, I don't know about you, unless you become addicted to North Carolina, if you live in Florida, probably not going to get down to Moorhead to take advantage of that credit. So that's another reason that we really do try to screen the people that are coming on the trips, because many times a dive will be called because you have the weakest link or the barest minimum meeting of qualification divers on the boat, and we just can't take the risk. But if you're a if you're a qualified diver, and Nicole and I will be happy to talk to you about what do we mean by a qualified diver. But if you're a qualified diver, then there are lots of days when other charters will have to cancel, and we won't have to cancel. We will not be in jeopardy. We will not be in an unsafe environment, but we will have the skills to be able to dive the wrecks. And once you get in the water, that's not an issue. The issue only becomes getting on and off the boat, which I might add is a good time to say that all the ladders in North Carolina are what we call a fin-on ladder. So they're a Christmas tree or fin-on, and you're basically going to grab onto the ladder. You're going to let your feet settle into the lower rungs, and then you're going to start, fin over fin, side to side, coming up that Christmas tree ladder. Only when you are on the deck fully and safely, preferably on your knees if the boat is bouncing quite a bit, then the crew will help remove your fins. We do not want you to remove your fins in the water, and Lord knows we do not want you to hand them up, okay? Because if you get pushed back off that ladder, those fins have got to be already on you. You will not have time to worry about trying to struggle to get your fins back on, all right? So usually if you pick the right season, and the right season is June, July, parts of August, and parts of September, and parts of October. Okay, so June and July are generally really safe, and then you get the parts of. And those are the best time to go diving. Part of that is because that's when the conditions are going to be the most stable, least likely to experience high winds, tropical storms, or something coming up the coastline, and most likely to have those beautiful, dream-filled, picturesque days of diving off of the graveyard of the Atlantic. Nicole? I don't know if your mic is working, but anyway.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, so I'm getting a question about the sand tigers. Are they year-round, or is there a season for them to be at the wrecks?
Okay, so the sand tigers are kind of like our Florida groupers. They are year-round. There are times of the year when there are them. They don't really have an aggregation season per se, but well, yeah, technically, I guess they do. I don't call it aggregation, but there will be mating season, and that just happens to be during that summer time frame. They will get very frisky with one another. It is not uncommon to be able to find lots of sand tiger teeth on the wrecks or in the sand, and you will see a lot of bite marks on the sharks themselves because they kind of get real frisky and clamp onto each other during the process, so to speak. So, don't be alarmed when you see a shark with all kinds of bites in it. They were actually just having a good time. So
awesome. Let's go back to what specialty gear would you recommend for these dives?
So it's very similar to diving in Florida. You're going to want gloves. You're going to need those gloves for going down the anchor line. So when we jump into the water, there's going to be what they call a granny line underneath the boat. And so that will go from a mushroom anchor at the back of the boat to a mushroom anchor towards the front of the boat. And then it will hook directly into the anchor line, which is physically attached to the wreck, not a mooring ball, but actually the wreck. You will then remain completely, fully intact with the granny line and fully intact, hands on, hand over hand, going down the anchor line. And so because you're going to go down the anchor line with your hands on the anchor line to avoid any, current that you're not aware of, you need to protect your hands from, the ropes and anything that is growing on those ropes. You will then use the gloves while you're on the wreck. While we don't encourage people to, try to walk on the wreck or really treat the wreck any differently than you would any kind of a reef, if there is current and you need to be able to hide below the wreck, or pull yourself along the wreck, just like sometimes when we have current, we'll pull ourselves along the bottom of the sand, finger in and pull so that we make the least amount of surface area. You do the same thing on the wreck, so you're going to want gloves. You're also going to need a signaling device. So you actually will need two. The first type of signaling device that you should have is a small mirror or some sort of reflective device that you can tuck into a pocket. And should you possibly get swept away or need to surface without coming up on the anchor line, we want everyone to go up and down the anchor line fully intact, meaning hand over hand on the anchor line. But sometimes you may need to go up and you're not close to the anchor line, and rather than keep swimming around for it, you may need to do what we call a free ascent. So at that, when you do that free ascent, you need to be very wary of boats above you, just like you do in Florida. And unlike Florida, where you have a flag underneath you, you will deploy your SMB or safety sausage, which is one of the pieces of gear that you'll need. You'll deploy that preferably at 20 feet so that you can do your safety stop, and the boat will have had a chance to see that safety sausage or SMB bobbing at the surface, obviously away from the wreck. You won't need that safety sausage or SMB if you're on the anchor line, but if you have gotten drifted off or swept off, then you will need it. Again, preferably at 20 feet. And if for any reason you surface and you're further away from the wreck than you feel that they have seen you, you can see the wreck, but you're not sure they can see you, then a mirrored signaling device is going to be something that you'll want to have in your BC pocket. You'll also want to have on your SMB or safety sausage, it needs to be a 5-foot or 6-foot sausage. This is a venue where bigger is better, guys and gals, because a small little, I know, but a small little safety sausage, it's not going to get seen if there's 3-foot waves. If you have a 3-foot sausage and you're in 3-foot waves, that's not going to be seen, okay? So we're going to want a 5 to 6 foot long safety sausage so that it will be high enough up in the water. You're going to want a, in the old days, we used to have goodie bags, and you can still take a goodie bag, but better for hunting would really be a tube. So if you want to hunt, you need to bring your own lionfish spear. You need to bring your own tube. They're not able to be rented. You can buy them in North Carolina, but you can't rent those. So I guarantee you that because of volume alone and the fact that Force-E always has the best dive prices, you're going to do much better. And it's true. You're going to do much better getting that gear from Force-E to take with you if you don't own it already. And if you're going to be hunting lionfish, my guess is you already own that gear. So go ahead.
Just to let you guys know that because it's our rec month, we have a great deal on reels and lights right now. So if you go to our website, we have an online store that's all of the stuff that we have on sale for those two types of rec gear. That's lights and reels. And you can see all the cool things that we have listed if you want to go on rec diving. Also, you mentioned about maybe if you're not into hunting, but you want to get into cameras, taking cameras. We have a question. Is there a camera table on this particular dive boat?
There is a camera table inside the covered salon area. So they have a heated and air-conditioned covered salon. And so there is camera table setups in there that you can put your cameras on. It's a crapshoot. I would come duly prepared. So if you have a large camera setup like say EJ does, and even myself, then you want to bring that, because if you can get those photos with that camera setup, wonderful. If the conditions are such that that camera setup becomes a little bit of a kite, then your backup ought to be one of the action cameras. So whether it's a GoPro or a Paralens, I know that Force-E offers several of those action type cameras. You're definitely going to want those as a backup. And in some cases, they are perfect primary camera because now they're going to be very compact. And I know many large camera photographers that have those. And sometimes some of their best footage is from their action camera.
All right, so everybody wants to know, you keep talking about a trip. So does Single Divers and Force-E have a trip together?
Well, we do actually. I guess we've hinted at it enough. So Force-E and singledivers.com is going to the Graveyard of the Atlantic in July. In fact, over the 4th of July weekend. So the actual trip dates are July 2nd through the 7th. July 2nd is your travel day. July 7th is your travel day. And then we have 4 full days of diving, which will put us on 8, potentially up to 8 different wrecks during our 4-day stay. And one of the reasons that extra diving is really, really valuable is twofold. First off, if you just go to Morehead City for 1 day of diving, there's never a guarantee what wreck you're going to see. You can sign up for a dive boat that says we're going to try to make it to the sub or we're going to try to make it to the sharks, and there's no guarantees you're going to make it. But if you're diving 4 days there, somewhere in that 4 days, we will make it to the sub. Somewhere in that 4 days, we're going to see lots and lots of sharks. And somewhere in that 4 days, we're going to basically see almost any wreck that you would love to see at least once. And somewhere in that 4 days, we might even be able to double dip on one of the wrecks that we just can't possibly wait till the following year to see again. Nicole?
Awesome. So this trip, if you guys are interested in getting on this trip, there is something that you can do, right, Kamala?
Yeah, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to join the Force-E VIP Travel Club. And Force-E has brought to you a number of special advantages in their VIP Travel Club. You can avoid single supplements. You can avoid having your dream trip canceled on you because not enough people signed up. The trips are now guaranteed to run regardless of how few or how many people are on the trip. This absolutely is the best insurance policy for your vacation. Shy of a pandemic, the trip will run. That's about the only thing that has ever stopped any of the trips now that we're talking about with Force-E. There are early booking discounts that you'll qualify for. There are some Force-E special discounts that you'll qualify for. That's another reason to make sure that you officially signed up for this particular event, because you will receive in your inbox a little special coupon if you're interested in this particular trip, as well as some other perks regarding the VIP Travel Club. Nicole?
Also, not to mention, it's pretty good because you pretty much match people to room with each other off of a questionnaire that allows you to understand what kind of a sleeper they are. Do you like seeing gender roommates? All types of different things that you really put a lot of detail in to make sure that everyone's going to have a great trip.
You know, we really looked at all the issues of traveling solo. And one of those were Insta buddies from hell and roommates from hell. And so we basically fixed that problem by allowing you to give us critical information regarding what temperature do you like the room? What type of diving style do you have? Are you a photographer and you're going to move really, really slow? Or are you a real estate diver and you're going to want to cover as much ground as possible? And we will match not only based on your skill levels, air consumption levels, but also your style of diving. So we will make buddy suggestions. So if you know somebody already that you can talk into going on the trip, fantastic. But don't feel like, I don't know anybody, I really can't go, because this program does away with those problems. You don't have to know anybody, and you're going to be able to have a phenomenal roommate based on many parameters, whether you smoke, you snore, you're an early bird, a late hour, introvert, extrovert, you name it, we cover it. And then is equally as important is for diving. Your dive buddy will be somebody that is suited to your skill level, your comfort level. And so, you know, gone are the days of worrying about, I don't know anybody. I don't feel comfortable signing up. Right, Nicole?
That's right. So if you guys live and you're like, well, where do I go to find out more information about the North Carolina trip? So I'm going to hide myself.
I think we lose your audio when you are hiding, Nicole.
All right, well, then I guess I'm not going to hide. Okay, everybody has to follow around with me here. So if you go to the website and you go to the tab Go Diving and you drop it down where it says Travel, you go right into there, and all of the dive travel trips that we are doing co-hosting with single divers are on this page, and that North Carolina trip is right there. And it tells you about pricing. Packages are starting at $972. But there's also some other packages available. So again, the best thing to do is click that little tab, More Info, and that's going to make you guys email us, and we will get you pretty much either a phone call or an email with somebody from Single Divers who's going to tailor the trip directly for you so that you can make sure that you're getting the trip that you want. So that's why there's not as much information on the website, because again, it's all about tailoring it to who wants to go and how they want their trip to be ran. So that's one of the great perks of being a part of the Force-E VIP membership. So again, if you go to the tab at the top of the Force-E website, it's called, hold on, let me go back. The tab is Go Diving, and then the little tabs pull up and it's Travel. So that's where you're going to find it in case you guys want to get some more information. So, all right. Is there any other questions that you guys might have for Kamala here? I know I tried to answer them while you guys were spouting them out, but I think I got them all. I do know somebody asked how many tech divers would be needed to run a tech trip? Like, so how many divers go on this boat, I guess?
Excellent question. So recreational divers, there's 18 on the boat that we're using. Olympus has several boats. We choose the crew boat. That is the one that rides lowest and most stable in the water, and it's going to give us the absolute best ride. So that's an 18-passenger trip, and usually a tech charter, which is a little bit more money, obviously, is about 12 divers. So, and that may change, but normally that's about the ratio.
Yeah, and again, going on our trip, we're going to notice the pricing differences are going to be like a different level, because Kamala does a lot of diving with that dive center and dive boat, and so she's gotten the rates that, you know, allow for some great discounts, right? So if you go and try and price it yourself, you might notice that you won't get the same rates that we are getting with this group collaboration.
Well, and the biggest thing is that the area, and we may drop off, and so I'm hoping we're not going to end our thing here, but last year they got hit really hard. You know, the hurricane that was supposed to wipe out all of West Palm, well, it wiped out pretty much the coastal area of North Carolina. So most of the hotels went down. So hotel rooms are massively expensive and extremely hard to find. Because I've been diving there for 20-something years, I was able to secure hotel reservations with one of my former longtime standing operators. And for a holiday weekend, I got the entire hotel. So it's one of the few places that you can even stay. So our pricing is highly competitive, given that there are very few hotels now in the area. It's also highly competitive because North Carolina is a drive-to destination. So they expect you to show up and have all the amenities that coming in for just 1 or 2 days is going to have. Most of our clients are either going to fly into Raleigh-Durham There may be some caravans coming up from Florida, but most people will actually be flying in. And so as a result, we've had to put some extra amenities in there, including breakfast and lunch on the boat, and one group cookout, which usually ends up being 2 group cookouts. But so those are included in the package. And because those are included, you can't find that kind of a package anyplace. So.
Well, awesome. So much, Cam. 100% love this presentation. I've gotten some great feedback. Some questions were answered. We have lots of thumbs up and hearts and yay emojis coming in. So thank you again. And if you guys have any other questions, you can always email travel@force-e.com and we'll get you signed up for that VIP program with Force-E and single divers. So guys, we hope you're all doing well. I know a lot of you aren't able to get in the water right now. We're not either, so we feel ya. Just
the gills are drying out.
I know. I actually got dressed up today for you all, makeup and all. So, but we do appreciate you guys signing in today with us. We love you, and we always want to keep you guys engaged. So make sure that you tune in next week when we have another presentation just like this, except for it'll be on the wrecks, the history of the wrecks of South Florida, with one of our very local divers, Mr. Lance. He'll be telling you guys all about the cool things of the wrecks that are right here in Florida and what you should know about them before you go diving. So, all right, guys, thank you, Kamala, again. We can't imagine you know, not working with you. You're fantastic, and we hope that everybody wants to go on a trip with us soon. So, all right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for signing in. Have a great
4th of July, fireworks on history. Let's do it.
Bye, everybody.